we're getting breaking news, and this is what we were anticipating and we were waiting for this. We're getting news from the Supreme Court that the Apex Court has in fact dismissed Novartis's appeal. This is what we're learning from the Supreme Court. Remember, they had appealed regarding that patent, but the Supreme Court has turned that down, and that is the big news that we're getting. So far we were speculating as to what the Supreme Court would do, in which direction this would go. So this has not been a win for Novartis. It has dismissed Novartis's plea. I wonder if I can we're going to try and go to our legal correspondent to get the exact details of what the Supreme Court has said while appreciating this case. Remember, this has been a legal battle for the past 7 years. Just to take you through once again what exactly we're talking about. All right, we're going to go to our pharma correspondent with CNBC TV 18. All right, I believe we've lost Archana Shukla for the moment. Let's quickly get in a word from our health editor, Amrita Tripathi, on that big breaking news. Amrita, just take it away. Novartis appeal dismissed by the Supreme Court, the repercussions. That's
absolutely a huge verdict, a huge judgment in a landmark case. It's been fought for 7 years, as you've been telling us. I don't know, they've been talking about this. This is something that's going to be lauded by health activists, by NGOs, by patients, I think, across the country, because of the fact that what it essentially means is that the Supreme Court verdict has gone in the way of affordable, life-saving medicines being more accessible to all, going against the Swiss pharma major, saying essentially that this was not a new molecule, upholding the Patent Appeals Board decision from back in 2006, saying it's not a new molecule, despite what Novartis has been saying. You can expect, though, drug majors across the world not to take this lying down, Arun, because of the fact that it's a hugely tightly contested market. India's generic industry is valued at about $26 billion, but we're talking about billions of dollars when it comes to research and development and drugs. The Supreme Court final verdict right now is certainly going to be seen positively, probably across the country, and for millions of patients worldwide as well who benefit from India's generic drugs. Right,
Amrita, we're still waiting for that legal perspective to come in from Ashok Bagria, as he's still inside the Supreme Court, which delivered this verdict. We've just got to know this from inside the court. But before we come to him, Amrita, we were talking about this earlier as well. If the prospect of if Novartis was not, if the Supreme Court was not going to rule in favor of Novartis, this would also have an impact on research and innovation.
Absolutely. And what the drug majors are saying worldwide, and it is a valid point, which different countries, of course, will be debating. Drug majors are saying it hits their R&D costs. They don't get to recover their costs, though they are given royalty, we must add, for drugs that are not patented, even because of earlier patents. But also what we're hearing from outside is that India doesn't respect intellectual property rights. That's something drug majors say, that India is creating a protectionist regime. Now, that could have ramifications that hit back on India's own generic drugs industry. But we do know countries like Brazil, countries like South Africa, and in the continents of South America, Africa, as well as Southeast Asia, Indian generic drugs, because of the fact that they're so much cheaper, they turn out to be life-saving and making medical treatment accessible for more. In this case, it would be myeloid leukemia, a form of cancer, but we're also talking about diseases like malaria, diseases like HIV, AIDS, and others, where the generic drug industry of India has proved to be life-saving. So this is something that's going to be lauded. It was being watched very closely, and they're certainly worldwide.
But Amrita, having said that, even if this would have gone in favor of Novartis, we're talking about the consumer at the end of the day, and how affordable a specific medicine would be, and this certainly would not be accessible to perhaps the majority.
That's true, and cancer is such a huge problem for India in terms of the millions of patients we have. Myeloid leukemia, we should clarify, a very rare form of cancer, but it's something that we're not entirely sure the numbers, but definitely in the millions. We have heard statements in the past from people from the Cancer Patients Aid Association saying this kind of decision simply cannot go Novartis's way, because it would deny people access to these kind of drugs. We were talking earlier about the cost. The monthly dosage of treatment on this drug, by some estimates, would have been about more than ₹1,00,000. So obviously making it completely inaccessible for people. Now, the Supreme Court, with this verdict, clearing the way for it to be more accessible for generic drugs to come in. The competition obviously driving the price down, and the fact that the patent has not been upheld is going to be a sigh of relief for patients, those on healthcare, those who have to pay out of their own pocket as well. But we should bring out the fact that Novartis has been saying that it has made its drug available under discount to people in India as well. It does hold a patent for Gleevec in 40 countries under this, so they're not going to be taking this decision lightly or lying down. They've been fighting this battle for 7 years, and for very good reason, given the amount of money that's pumped into this. But as we're saying, it's certainly being seen as a victory. It's going to be seen as a victory for patients, for health activists, and people working like Doctors Without Borders, people we're going to try and get perspectives in from very soon indeed.
Yes, we will try and get a few reactions from experts as well. But Amrita, just practically speaking, the difference between the Gleevec in this case, as well as the generic drug industry, which has an edge over Gleevec now in this context after the Supreme Court verdict. How exactly, for practical purposes, what exactly is the difference that we're looking at?
Well, I think in terms of the cost, that's the one thing we've been talking about, because if you have a drug that you need to take for a month and the treatment costs about 1,10,000 rupees for that versus what's being estimated at about 10,000 rupees for the generic version. Of course, the cost is huge. We're talking about 1 month, so you multiply that by 12, of course, for the yearly cost. When you talk about generic drugs overall, I don't know, the industry itself, we should add, is growing in India. About 16 to 17% is estimated to be growing. It's a $26 billion industry, so it's not really David versus Goliath in that sense. It's a pretty massive industry here, but most people focus in terms of the humanitarian appeal of it, because we are talking about making medicine more accessible to people, life-saving medicines, that too. So I think the moral authority has always been on this side of the argument. When you hear from health activists, patient associations, the moral authority is simply this, that by upholding patents like this, in certain cases like this, you would be denying people life-saving drugs or making them prohibitively expensive. In this case, what the Supreme Court has done is essentially deny Novartis the patent on the grounds that the Patent Appeals Board had denied it earlier. That's what it seems as we wait for word from the courts. The ground was earlier that this was not a new molecule, so companies allowed to patent new drugs. India's patent laws are specific in that they don't allow them to modify new molecules. Once they're modified with a different reach and a different chemical composition, then companies tend to patent those as well. So again, Novartis has a patent for Gleevec in 40 countries. It's been fighting for that here for the last 7 years, but India's Patent Appeals Law Board shooting that down in 2006, saying this is essentially not a new compound, that it needs to be allowed to have generic variants.
All right, Amrita, just hold on there. I believe we can go across to another perspective. Mr. Anand Grover, the director and lead lawyer of the Cancer Patient Aid Association, joining us on the phone line. Thanks very much, Mr. Grover, for being with us here on CNN IB, and your initial reaction to this judgment.
We are very happy. The court has said that 3D, as has been interpreted in any way, it may be interpreted, the application of Novartis for the beta crystalline form of imatinib mesylate is neither new, novel, does not satisfy inventive step, and actually is hit by 3D. So 3D is alive and kicking. Novartis' attempt to actually water down 3D has been rejected. Their appeal has been dismissed. It's a very good day for the cancer patients as well as all other affected people by various ailments. So we are very happy.
Right, certainly so, and you've been opposed to this patent application as well, Mr. Grover. But having said that, what would you say to the other side of the argument, as some people were putting forth during the 7-year legal battle, that it is also going to affect some research as well as innovation and other...
Not at all. That is a myth created by the multinationals and Novartis. There is already very little innovation in these type of drugs. If there are real innovations, they are patentable in India. What we are saying is, in these drugs, there is no innovation.
Right.
They want to make money without innovation.
All right, all right.